What would happen if you set up a match between one of the most strangest anti-hero and the most monstrous villain in Marvel? That's exactly what happens in the story of Deadpool vs. Carnage. In this 4-part tale, we will seek the answer to a question of cosmic proportions: who will emerge victorious in this epic battle? Will it be a twisted, nerve-ridden individual with countless sharp thorns, or a foul-mouthed mercenary armed with an arsenal of guns, swords, and an incredibly regenerative body? Be careful when choosing sides, as he might come after you if you don't choose him. Get ready to dive into the craziest arena in the Marvel Universe, where Deadpool clashes with Carnage. In a bloody and violent battle, what initially appeared to be a normal day at the bunny truck stop turned into a comic book scene. The story begins with a 50-year-old police officer reading a newspaper and complaining about Carnage escaping from prison once again. He seemed to be talking to himself like any ordinary person about firing his first shot in life. Then, he cursed the relentless psychopath. He quickly regretted speaking his mind because the person sitting next to him was none other than the convict, Cletus Kasady, and he did not look pleased. In a flash, Carnage emerged, targeting the serial killer and thrusting straight into the face of the police officer. Boom! His brain splattered. What happened next was a bloodbath. Do you think Carnage would sit down and order eggs and smoked meat? Of course not. All the patrons had their turn, except for beloved planets. Before we find out what happens next, let's switch to Deadpool. He was watching the hottest news you can imagine, and he was eating a bowl of yellow-colored stuff that isn't actually gold. Call it Deadpool's guacamole. He quickly changed the channel because the images made his meal look surprisingly unappetizing for a serial killer. Deadpool had to keep changing channels, and what he realized from the TV was that he had become a catchphrase: "You're crazy like Deadpool. Change the channel, you're crazy like Deadpool. Change the channel, you're crazy like Deadpool." He truly had gone crazy like Deadpool. This hit Deadpool's psyche as the initial hot news made him consider Carnage as the craziest one. The Warrior's decision was wrong. Deadpool challenged himself to stop Carnage. Now, any ordinary hero would put on the Conan hat and search for clues about Carnage, interviewing ordinary people and gathering information. These aren't Deadpool's style. He stepped out onto a street like Times Square in his suit and asked the universe for a sign. He knew this plan was a bit far-fetched, but for a weirdo with a metal mouth, anything is possible. Nonetheless, Deadpool stood there until noon, searching for a sign, until a suspicious character approached with a seemingly bleeding briefcase, leaving no trace. "Just follow me," said the anti-hero, following the trail of blood to a butcher shop, where a red-headed figure approached, causing a commotion around. "Cassidy, is that you?" He realized that this guy was just an ordinary teenager looking for a beer at the pub. But there was a clue nearby, perhaps a child playing a game, knowing something or not. However, Deadpool was sure he was going in the right direction and, to his surprise, the red-headed guy was correct. He grabbed 2 magazines, one with Carnage's face on the cover, and the other featuring a modern ghost town. Deadpool pieced the information together and headed south. There, Kasady was sunbathing on a peaceful morning, wearing shorts. Wishing he could stop conquering the world and just live a normal life. As Kasady was chilling in the morning mist, something flew straight towards him. "My spider senses are telling me I need to run." Nonetheless, the object slowly flew into view, revealing a massive fireball aimed directly at Kasady's handsome face. The narrator couldn't die, but Kasady was blown up along with his shack, crawling away with sparks flying around him. And Carnage appeared to confront Deadpool. What followed was a series of booms, gunshots, grenades, swords flying, and profanity. Victory seemed within Deadpool's grasp when he fed Carnage a mine. In return, Deadpool lost a few fingers. But suddenly, someone jumped into the battle and blew off Deadpool's face. The one rescuing Carnage was Shriek, dressed as a maid for some reason. What is she doing here? What is her purpose? And most importantly, why is she in a cosplay outfit? The battle has only just begun, my friends, and believe me, it's crazier than you can imagine. Before we start, hit the subscribe button to become a planet in the realm of Sir Barkalot. The second issue unfolds dramatically. After Shriek nearly charred Deadpool's face, Carnage delivers a finishing blow with his signature impaling technique, lifting the red-headed individual up while asking, "How did you find me?" We all know the answer, but Carnage goes mad when Deadpool says, "He tracked you down." The parasite swore never to follow any rules, yet now there's someone tracking him. A wave of attacks hits Deadpool along with Carnage's screams. Chaos, chaos. Finally, the red-headed figure reveals 2 speakers on his belt. Deadpool crafted them after working with Venom, a symbiote like Carnage but black in color. The loudmouth claims to know the unique weakness of these extraterrestrial symbiotes. Carnage collapses, reverting back to Kasady form amidst the sound emitted from the red-headed figure's speakers. This plan is truly genius until Shriek unleashes 2 beams of light that destroy Deadpool's speakers. The battle continues, and the 2 opponents fight fiercely. However, this time, Wilson seems to have done his homework as he throws a bunch of explosive gas bombs at another weak spot of Carnage. And then, nothing happens. It turns out Deadpool forgot to press his own ignition button. Now he presses it. Boom! Deadpool celebrates his victory while Carnage's flesh burns. Suddenly, a spear pierces through the flames and impales Deadpool's abdomen once again. They fly away, leaving Deadpool dead behind. At this point, the situation looks grim for our hero. But what better ending awaits him when facing an extraterrestrial being armed with deadly spears? After the battle, Deadpool stumbled upon one of the stores where he had sent some hot merchandise all over the United States, like this one, for example. It seemed that Deadpool had missed a few payments, so his equipment had been auctioned off to a chubby guy. This guy had a passion for detective work and had decorated his place with Deadpool's images. Meanwhile, Carnage and the other villains were in the living room. The chubby guy, who seemed to think he was a detective, was actually just guessing like Deadpool. He sincerely believed that Carnage was attacking the town of Doverton, which had the same name as himself. Doverton wasn't entirely sure about the accuracy of this assumption, but he was certain that he would help Deadpool find Carnage. Switching to Cassidy and Shriek, they were now living comfortably in a luxurious bonbon car on the highway. Suddenly, Deadpool's voice echoed from a speaker in the back seat. It turned out he was sitting right in front on a giant lawnmower propelled by a tractor. Deadpool accepted the task to aim the machine straight at Carnage's car and started cutting through it, smashing the windshield. Cassidy became enraged and transformed into Carnage, asking Deadpool why he was attacking him. The battle resumed with Deadpool dodging continuous attacks. It seemed like a flirtatious courtship. The relentless assault showed that Carnage was clearly friend-zoning Deadpool, while the red-headed guy, being hopelessly romantic, intervened with his katana, slashing at Carnage's neck and repeatedly stabbing Deadpool's abdomen. Deadpool was too familiar with this move and kept making sarcastic remarks, infuriating the mentally unstable individual. The tide turned in favor of Carnage. As the flames from the wreckage engulfed everything, the curious onlookers remained unaffected. In the midst of the tension, an unpredictable twist occurred. Deadpool dropped all his swords and guns, attempting a different tactic to deal with Carnage. Psychological manipulation, a strategy that could backfire greatly when Carnage threw his enemies away using all his strength. Deadpool tried to persuade Carnage that the chaos he believed in was just an imaginary friend, and that all the massacres he sought were mere illusions in his mind. Everything has meaning and can be predicted, Carnage. In the next moment, Deadpool rammed straight into a truck, causing his eyes and organs to spill out. It was an action befitting a madman. Deadpool was desperately grasping at the words of the curious crowd to find clues about where Carnage would go. After a while, he shifted his attention to the word Mercury on the driver's uniform. He turned around to see the word team on a school bus. He scratched his exposed brain and wondered, what does Mercury team mean? Before we return to Cletus Cassidy, let's pause to understand what Mercury team means. This is a special forces team under the command of the US military, with the purpose of fighting and capturing Carnage. It consists of 4 soldiers, all of whom are bonded with a symbiote: Agony, Phage, Laser, and Riot. When these symbiotes come together, they transform into an unstoppable entity called Hybrid. Remember this detail, it's important. Meanwhile, Deadpool is trying to decipher the meaning behind the clues, while Carnage is busy kidnapping a family with his unconscious girlfriend in the back seat. He is terrorizing the entire family, especially the youngest daughter. At the same time, Carnage begins to notice signs everywhere, most notably the numerous locations appearing on travel brochures. An idea starts to form in Carnage's deranged mind. On the highway, Deadpool is speeding in the bonbon car, following a trail of clues. A cloud forms in the shape of Carnage's face. A dead dog lies on the road, a noisy family, and 2 guys dissecting something or someone's stomach. Before he reaches another ghost town, he stops when he sees the car we saw earlier. All Deadpool finds is a scene of carnage. As Deadpool scours the ghost town for clues about Carnage, the final team finally appears, but it's only a brief moment because Carnage infiltrates their base and wipes out the entire team in human form. Shortly after, Deadpool also discovers an elevator leading to the most secret base in the United States. Blood is scattered everywhere, and there is no one guarding anything. Carnage rushes out to attack Deadpool and cuts him into pieces. Carnage's plan is to turn Deadpool into mud. The plan cannot quickly recover and then burn the facilities to see aluminum melt. But someone or something survives the initial raid at the base. It looks like a dark spider dog approaching either the hired soldiers or the remnants of Carnage. In any case, the 4 symbiotes, 1 black, 1 gold, 1 blue, and 1 purple, suddenly take over Deadpool's body, transforming him into an incredibly cool and terrifying entity called Deadpool Hybrid. With monstrous limbs full of spikes and sharp teeth, he can crush metal into dust. The game has just begun, and Carnage is about to receive a devastating blow from head to toe. But don't jump to conclusions. In this madness, anything can happen. The final issue sees Carnage confronting Deadpool. Thinking that he had defeated Deadpool, Carnage ventured to the Carrington Psychiatric Hospital, where he mistakenly took the word Carrington for Carnage, which is his own name. The demon dragged a series of doctors and patients along to interrogate them about the meaning of chaos. And by chance, it turns out that Deadpool had actually made his way into his deranged mind with his own tactics. But is that a good thing when Carnage paints the walls red, smashing the head of a doctor against it? The demon also quickly meets a similar fate as a bullet explodes his head. Outside the window, Deadpool reappears with a sniper rifle in hand, and this time he's not alone. The anti-hero releases one of his parasites, a knife flying through the window to attack Carnage. Simultaneously, he blows away the last remaining conscious patients of the Carrington Hospital. Immediately, Shriek. She then turns to Carnage and becomes extremely confused when she sees 2 names. So confused that she runs out of the room screaming like a madwoman. It turns out that the figure lying beneath the floor is Deadpool hybrid, posing like a girl on the beach. Before landing a devastating blow on Carnage, the smoke from the gun fills the room, and Carnage is completely trapped in Deadpool's grip. He pulls a trick that impales the enemy through the wall, only to scratch the parasite a bit. He stands up and continues to argue with Deadpool about the meaning of their actions. Deadpool points out how two lunatics like them can coexist in the same world and now resemble each other so much. This leads him to call himself Carnage's pet soul. If Carnage wasn't already insane, all these questions and doubts wouldn't have driven him to madness. He slowly walks through the dark corridor of the hospital until he sees Deadpool wielding a sword, ready to act. Charging from behind, Carnage prepares for the final blow, but then he realizes that he has attacked Shriek. She had transformed herself under the possession of the 4 parasites. Alone, Carnage denies accepting that he made a mistake and that Deadpool is the guilty one. I know you're all preparing for an epic final battle, and I'm sorry to say that it's not happening today, folks. The next morning, the police and ambulances arrived at the hospital to address the damage. It seems that Cassidy has turned himself in, and like all of us, the officers ask, why did Carnage do this? Sitting still in his parasitic form, I'll sit right here, so I can be alone, so I can regain my sanity. Returning to Deadpool, did he truly outsmart Carnage with his wit, or did he create an even more ruthless Carnage? Nevertheless, he decided to part ways with his symbiotic friends due to busy work commitments. Then Deadpool walks towards the sunset like a western cowboy while telling his shadowy spider dog companion, take your kind back to the government. This farewell scene concludes our story, and I wish you all a joyful time discovering the meaning of chaos. See you next time.